Hey, what's up, guys? I hope you're enjoying the Be the Difference podcast. If you are, I got a huge favor to ask. Go on to Apple Podcasts, leave a 5-star review for us. It helps us immensely with algorithms and growth because we grow completely by word of mouth, organically. That's why there are no ads. Also, feel free to share this content with somebody you think might get value out of it. Last, if you don't know, I also do coaching to help people become the best version of themselves, starting with physical fitness, going all the way through mindset, sales, and leadership. If you're interested in learning more, there's going to be a link in the description of the podcast. You can schedule a time. It's a free assessment. All I'm going to do is have a conversation with you and see if I can even help you. I look forward to speaking to all of you. Continue to enjoy the podcast, and remember to always be the difference. What's up, everybody? It's Greg with Delta, and this is the Be the Difference podcast. This podcast is all about making you a better person in your life and in your business with coaching on sales, leadership, mindset, marketing, everything under the sun when it comes to being an entrepreneur. And we bring on guest speakers. Today, I've got the honor and pleasure of welcoming Miss Anika Jackson. Anika, how are you?
Good. Thank you, Greg, for having me on.
It is my pleasure. Pleasure is all mine. And for those of you that don't know Anika, Anika is a mother, community volunteer, philanthropist, marketing and communications professional, podcast host, and graduate adjunct professor at USC Annenberg School for Communication and Journalism. As a marketer, she has done it all, including experiential marketing, event production, launch marketing, public relations, digital, and influencer throughout her multiple decade career. Anika serves as the VP of Operations for Full Capacity Marketing and is the founder and host of the Your Brand Amplified podcast and the Brand Amplifier program for small businesses. Her mission with the Brand Amplifier is to empower cause-driven businesses and entrepreneurs to amplify their impact in the world. She is a member of the Intuit Small Business Council, the advisory board for the Women in Leadership program at UCSB, and advisor and thought leader for multiple local, national, and global nonprofits. Her NPO leadership positions currently include co-founder / board member of Learn, Grow, Lead, treasurer of Influence Hers Foundation, and incoming VP of Communications for the National Charity League Peer Chapter. Welcome, Anika. I love it.
Thank you. I am thrilled to be here.
Yeah, I'm thrilled to have you. I'm thrilled to have you. So, talk about how you got started in marketing. Let's start at the beginning.
Yeah, I had a very organic, and I know that word can be overused, but really my whole journey in marketing and PR has been organic.
Yeah.
I started when I grew up in Lawrence, Kansas, and I've lived in a few places since then and had my career follow me. But growing up, I loved music. And so my friends and I all had fake IDs just so we could go dancing because you had to be 18 to go to these clubs. So we didn't even care. We didn't want to drink. We just wanted to go dancing. And so we would go to Kansas City on weekends and listen to music, just get involved in a bigger city than where we were living in. And then one day a friend of mine said, and I was a junior in high school, hey, some of these DJs want you to start promoting their events and marketing them. And I was like, okay, I don't really know what they want me to do, but it sounds fun. And I get to go to the events for free and again, do a little bit of work and then get to dance all night with my friends. So that was my first foray into, and I'd done some things. I'd done taking marketing classes and things like that, but that was my first foray into actually turning it into something. So I started out promoting music venues, DJs, starting to throw events, pairing charities with local event venues and doing like fashion shows and club nights and things like that. And then I parlayed that into a move to Chicago, where I worked for a marketing firm called Kevin Berg & Associates, or KBA. And they were national and did a lot of experiential marketing. And so for them, I did nightlife promotions, and I'm aging myself here. these are the days when people smoked cigarettes in bars. So I did not personally smoke cigarettes, but I was a Camel rep. So I would make sure that the bars in Chicago were stocked and talk to people about cigarettes and why they should change from Marlboro to Camel, and had to be really well versed in things, even if it wasn't my area of expertise or interest. I was a Smirnoff rep and would do events in the different venues, and then also for Audi. And that was not, it was experiential in different ways. So it was really calling people who had been pre-qualified leads to do test drives for new Audis coming out. And I also worked in nightlife. So I got to get into a different aspect of marketing and experiential marketing. From there, I was trying to figure out my what next. And I ended up moving to Los Angeles, where my sister lived. And I started working I worked a little bit for KBA, still did some nightlife promotions, but then I also started getting into the magazine business, and I did it all. And this is a journey I think many entrepreneurs are familiar with. And it's something I took into, I think, every job I've ever had, even when I worked for somebody else, was that I'll do it all. I want to learn every part of the business. Nothing is too small or big of a job. So I did everything from being the receptionist, and this is before we had voicemail. So I had to handwrite all the messages for everybody. I did the accounting, did circulation, subscriptions, just really learned a lot of different aspects of the business, and then moved into the marketing department, where I would create programs for advertisers on one hand, and then on the other hand, I would take what we were doing with advertisers and figure out how to distill those messages to our consumer base. So we would partner with a lot of events, American Ski Board Tour, Snowboard Tour, concerts, South by Southwest, all the different things, where we would reach people who were reading our magazine and probably using these products, or should be using these products, whether it was a clothing line, a new musician, a new artist, or a new brand of alcohol, or one that had been existing. So really trying to figure out how to get all these brands in front of consumers. Then I moved to San Francisco, and I launched official Xbox magazine when Xbox first came out. And I also launched a dance music magazine called Revolution. So that tied into my dance music.
Dance Revolution.
Story. So it's called Revolution. Yeah, before Dance Revolution came out, and it was a monthly magazine with a CD. I got to plan fun things like a 6-week summer tour with DJs on a tour bus. And in every city, we would still implement, like, our bus was wrapped with our sponsor logos. We would do, Levi's was a sponsor. So we would say, okay, in Chicago, we're going to pick these DJs and we're going to do a photo shoot. So we're tying into the music, but we're also satisfying, our advertiser and sponsors need for showing them, not quite organically, but really showing them how, showing our customer base, right, how this brand was associated with music to get them to buy. From there, I worked on probably 17 different consumer titles across the board. That company was Future US, and they had a lot of gaming titles, but also Business 2.0. And then on the consumer side, Guitar World, a few other guitar magazines, and then more lifestyle, parenting, knitting, you name it. I probably worked on that kind of magazine.
Yeah.
Then I moved back to LA, started my own little agency doing marketing and PR, because I'd worked with publicists, and I said, well, I feel like they really go together. And this is back when really things were still siloed. So if you did advertising, you did advertising. You did marketing, you did marketing. You did, digital, you did digital. You did PR, you did PR. And now I argue that it's all integrated. You have to know a little bit about each piece, even if it's not your area of expertise. You need to understand, because they all work together. And especially with this digital world we're in, one piece of content can be co-created across all of your different platforms, whether it's your own platforms or shared platforms, your paid platforms, or your earned platforms. So had my own agency. Then I was like, this is great, but it really wasn't satisfying. I was also getting married. Then I had my daughter, and that became a lot more important. So I started moving into philanthropy and nonprofit, and really cut my volunteer teeth, but used all of my skills in marketing and PR to do work for nonprofits. Then I moved to Houston. So I've lived a few different places. And it does have an end, but in Houston, I did a few different businesses. I did a lot with philanthropy, but I also had businesses that paired charities with businesses. And these are the days when people are first starting to make that connection of like, oh, yeah, we need to have a social platform. People want to know what we're doing to make the world a better place or impact our community as a brand, not just that we think we're the best product or service out there. So did a lot of work there, worked for some nonprofits, then ended up moving back to Los Angeles in 2019, thankfully before the pandemic. So I didn't have to deal with that Texas weather. I can still go outside and enjoy life here in California. Started my agency in PR, quickly realized that we needed to do a lot more because people who were coming to us for PR didn't understand who they were as a brand. And so did that. And that's the world I live in now. And then now I also teach, as you said, at USC. When I lived in Houston, I had a radio show that was also on Facebook Live, and then transitioned that into podcasting when I moved here. And that kind of takes us to today.
That is, you have a breadth of experience in marketing, and it seems like, I mean, it's it's varied, right?
Yeah.
So you have a lot of different experience. So I'm gonna ask a long-winded question. So I'm gonna go
Okay.
over it, and hopefully it's gonna make sense. I'm gonna give some context, and I hopefully it'll make sense for you. So for the audience, the majority audience is insurance agents. Okay, and so if they're looking to get into marketing,
Mhm.
okay, and some of them are, and most of them, to be honest, their marketing is going to consist of, well, I'm just going to post about why people need life insurance on my social media platforms, and someone's going to reach out to me, right? And then they may do that for like consistently for 3 days, and then they fall off the wagon, and then they'll do it again next week, and then they fall off the wagon, they'll do it again in another month. That's typically what I see, right?
Yeah.
Now, some people are doing it very consistently, and they're doing posts on like doing TikTok reels and doing Instagram reels, talking about the power of doing like a index universal life policy or something like that,
Mm.
or investing in tax free retirement solutions like Roth IRA, alternative options. And then you have people that are doing like paid ads where they're creating a VSL funnel or just a written funnel, like a where people, they'll do a paid ad on Facebook or on Google, and then when they get in, they'll go through and um, get weeded out of the process or go through the process of this
Right.
funnel. It's all very basic, right?
Mhm.
What would you, with your amount of experience, what are some tips that you would give to say, hey, this is going to help you on your marketing journey? This is either this is where you should look to learn more, or these are some strategies or tips to help you
Mhm.
in order for them to either acquire more clients or to attract agents to work with them.
Mm. I love that. Thank you. That's a great question. What I found was that a lot of people were coming to me who said, I need PR. They didn't really know what PR meant, and they expected instant results. And all marketing, things can happen, things can go viral, things can happen really quickly. But marketing, PR, SEO, all of these different techniques and tools that we use in the kind of marketing ecosystem are a long game. So consistency is really important, not just posting once, twice, three times and expecting results. Making sure you're posting consistently and making sure you have content pillars. So before we get to PR, we go to brand. Okay, yes, you're an insurance agent. You might be selling the same product as a lot of other people out there, but what makes you unique?
Mm.
So that could be you infuse some of your own personality. Maybe you are, I'm going to use this example because I heard it yesterday on a Zoom call. Somebody's like, I am a book author and I do this and I help people do XYZ, but I'm also a crazy cat lady. And I put that in my bio because maybe somebody will connect with the fact that I'm a crazy cat. Now, not talking about myself, talking
Yeah.
about somebody else. I
Yeah.
have dogs, but but yeah. So infusing little things that are those differentiators into your personality, that helps you build your brand. I didn't do marketing and PR for businesses when I lived in Houston. I did it for nonprofits. I did it for, a few people that I worked with, like under the table kind of. But I get clients from Houston every week because of my brand, my personal brand. So I would say take a step back when you're thinking about how you want to market yourself and your business. Who are you? how do you want people to see you? How do you want to show up? And make sure it's really authentic. Authenticity is the name of the game, particularly the past few years when everybody's sitting at home. Before, well, not, I guess not every state was this way, but I live in California. So we were all sitting at home. Coming out of the pandemic, particularly, we saw that people want to know they want to know you so that they can like you and they can trust you. And those are three basic tenets for marketing. So when you're looking at how you're putting out your content and your marketing strategy, whether it's a paid strategy, whether it's blog posts on your website or on LinkedIn, or whether it's on your social media, how are you letting people get to know you? How, so that they can then like you and trust your content, and then you're the person they think of when they need your service, when they're thinking about, oh yeah, I really do need a life insurance policy, or I want to learn about Roth IRAs, I need to know how to save for retirement. So all of those things are really important, and then making sure it's consistent across all the platforms. You mentioned TikTok. TikTok is the number 2 search engine now after Google, so it's becoming a really important play. Not to say that you need to go on and do TikTok dances and all the different things, but you should have TikTok in your wheelhouse. So even if you're not posting on all of the different social platforms, at least reserve the name and make sure the name is consistent across all of the platforms. Make sure the bio, make sure your links to your website or wherever you're directing people are all working links, and that it's all consistent, because that also helps build up your SEO. Again, TikTok is the number 2 search engine now after Google. It's the number 1 search engine for Gen Z. So if you're, depending on who your audience is, right, it will be an important part of your strategy, or it could be, but at least having your TikTok name reserved is going to go a long way to help build up your SEO, because every time you appear on one of these, even on your own website, LinkedIn, and you are consistent and you have the same information, that helps the algorithm for Google, and it helps put you up higher. So if you're using keywords like you're the best finance person, or you're the insurance specialist in XYZ in a certain geographic area, that's going to help attract more people to you when they're looking up, okay, I just moved to a new town, I need an insurance agent, or I need somebody to help me figure out how to move my 401k over, or what do I need to do for retirement? Those little things are going to help you come to the top without having to necessarily spend all of the money to do a big ad campaign. Because that's another thing we're seeing, is that depending on who you're targeting, algorithms are always changing for how ads are served too. So doing ads for Meta, which is Facebook and Instagram, is not necessarily going to be highly effective all the time for your industry. You have to look at how you're competing and who you're competing with. So those are some really quick tips that I could recommend. And I'm happy to get into more of it. But I think really that consistency and the integrated strategy. So when you put something on social media, make sure that you're also talking about it on your website. Perhaps you instead are reversing that, and you're thinking about, like, what keywords do I need to have on my website to make sure that people are seeing me, and create blog post content, which you can do really easily now with all the AI tools that are out there. And then you create quick posts that you can share on your social media that will lead people back to your website. So then you're getting more of that inbound traffic. Again, just creating that know, like, and trust factor, because it takes 8 to 12 touches for somebody to decide, okay, now I'm going to push the trigger, typically, for most decision making. And then, they need to keep seeing you everywhere. And they need to keep interacting with your content that 8 to 12 times to then pull the trigger and say, okay, now I'm ready to make that phone call, set up a meeting, hire this person.
So it sounds like, and I could be wrong, it sounds like you prefer the organic marketing and outreach versus paid.
I live primarily, like, my skill set is in the organic side. I do teach about paid media. I do have people who are great specialists for paid media on my team, and we're looking at new techniques all the time. For instance, because I know even as a marketer, I get so many email newsletters every day from people selling me things.
Yeah.
It's overwhelming. Now people are moving to text message, right? Which is still okay. I don't get too many of those. So keep on texting me when you're trying to sell me something. But I feel like things are moving in different directions, more to the streaming channels. There's a company called Mountain that's a great ad tech platform that will serve your 15 to 30 second ads on TV. And then so you'll see an ad like if you have Apple TV or Roku or something, it'll be on the different streaming channels. They have deals with all these different channels. You can get like every other platform, you can get the analytics that dive into what channel did somebody see you on, you can really dial into the demographics, psychographics, zip codes, what area you want to be in. And then the message will be reinforced on your phone. So you won't see the full ad, but you'll see pop-ups and you'll see other things. So you might not see the commercial that you'll see on these streaming platforms, but you'll get the reinforcement. So you'll still get those touch points.
Yeah.
So that's one that I'm really looking at leaning into. Also, billboards, bus transit shelters. I've recommended those as strategies, really kind of going back to the old school way of doing things.
Yeah.
As strategies. And then even like direct mail. I don't mind getting direct mail again because I feel like we don't get it enough. So when I get something, particularly if it's personalized, I'm like, oh, somebody tried something different. It's not really different or unique. It's old school, but it's
different for today.
Yeah, it's different for today.
Yeah.
So.
I think now I'm going to say this with a caveat.
Okay.
It's specific for insurance. I do think that old school mail is vastly overlooked. I was actually talking to a guy 2 hours ago. I was recording a podcast with another guy, and he was talking about how he had sent out 15 or 10,000 or something like that, like 10,000 email or mail pieces for his business. And he had all this, they put a lot of work and like an offer that was in there. So like to get people to sign up and getting a free gift card for his business. And he got like 1,500 responses. So he got like a 15% response, which is fantastic.
Yeah.
When it comes to direct mail, that's 50% is stupid. So if you do it right,
yeah,
I think mail can be fantastic in terms of response. The problem is that with insurance specifically is everyone's doing the same thing and they haven't really changed. It's been very it's antiquated. It's very antiquated. And they're using the same methods and techniques. And they're also oversaturated. So for mail leads that agents are using, we're seeing declining rates. Like for instance, when I first started in doing mail drops in Texas, it was 2018 and our return rate was about 1%. And today it's about 0.6.
Oh, wow.
So for every 1,000 pieces you're sending out, you're going to get about 6 pieces back.
Yeah.
On average, sometimes less, sometimes more, but on average about 6 pieces. And that's almost a 50% drop in what it was just a few years ago. And so just looking at the metrics and the numbers, the way I see it is just like, hey, mail's dying. But I think what it is that the old way of doing mail is dying. It's like they have to renovate and innovate the way that they're doing mail pieces in order to make it more personalized.
Yeah. Yeah.
And change everything.
Exactly.
And then we would see a refresh in the response rate.
Yeah, definitely. And that's, I think like everybody, I get a lot of cold emails on LinkedIn trying to sell me services. Sometimes I respond to them, but what makes that response? It's when somebody does come up with something a little bit more unique. They have a different personality, a different story. They're not just coming at me trying to sell me something right away. They're really trying to get to know me and get to know what my needs are. Then I'm happy to jump on the phone with somebody, and I might not need the services right now, but that's the person who's going to make an impression on me, who I'm going to then file so that I can come back to them and say, okay, I just sold my business, or I just had this really big deal. I need to know how to invest this money properly, and I need an insurance policy. And I know that there's a lot of ways people can use insurance nowadays to help them create wealth now. So thinking through all those things, like any strategy, whether it's digital, whether it's direct mail, whether it's, any other out of home, you'd have to just really think about that strategy and think about that authenticity that you're going to put into it. And how are you differentiating yourself from the rest of the market? If every product line you're selling is the same, your personality is the thing that's going to get people. And that's the same for customers or for if you're trying to attract agents, because you did talk about that at the beginning, and those could be two different markets. You still want to have authentic messages to both of them, but you're going to nuance those messages. How you talk about why somebody should join your team over any other team and what benefits they're going to get out of that, how you're going to help nurture them and help mentor them into having an amazing career, and talk about your own career and how it's changed your life and your family's life and given you peace of mind, financial security, time to go to your kids' games, whatever it is, pull those heartstrings. And then on the other side, you can use some of those messages, but you're talking about how having an insurance policy, having your finances set up correctly is going to help create peace of mind for those future generations as well.
Absolutely. Absolutely. I just started a LinkedIn marketing campaign with a company that does they have a very unique system where the way you can send out messages and like you can pre-plan them and like they're all like you handwrite them. It's not even like AI. It's like you handwrite them and you can set, hey, this will go out unless they respond, and I'll jump in. And then if they don't, then it like this is the next message in the sequence, so on and so forth. And the way I planned mine out was just like I'm very much about like providing value. So it's like, hey, I did a connection request, and then I view their profile. And then I'm like, hey, thanks for connecting. I like to be part of people's network. Let me know if I can ever be of value. And then like a couple days go by, and like, hey, I saw a really unique article for small business owners, or I try to provide something like, hey, I don't know if this would be of value, but with the current state of the economy, this is something that's been on my mind. I found a lot of value in this article. Let me know what you think. And then like next message is like, hey, I also run a podcast called Be the Difference Podcast. I have really unique guests, and I'll pick like a different guest, and I'll put it in there like, hey, if you like it, then awesome. It's this free value. And I try to provide entrepreneurs with information and help when it comes to, mindset, marketing, sales, leadership. Let me know what you think. Right. And then it'll be like, hey, I also do a lot of I do a lot of reels. I do a lot of videos on because I do on Instagram, TikTok, LinkedIn.
Nice.
And so I'm like, hey, here's some of my content. Check out my page, but here's something I just posted recently. Maybe you find value in it. I hope so. So I'm just like trying to provide value. And then I introduce myself. Hey, we've been connected for a while. I've sent you some messages. Let me tell you about who I am.
That's awesome.
And so
that's who I want to work with.
Yeah.
I want to work with you.
Yeah.
Just for telling me that. I will say, if you're not using YouTube Shorts,
I do YouTube Shorts also. Yeah.
Okay, perfect. Good. Yeah.
So all my YouTube Shorts are all from the podcast. They're all snippets from the podcast.
Have you thought about also though using your Reels and your TikToks?
So man, I usually the message is just over a minute every single time. It's real hard to get because I'm verbose, but two, like the content that I'm doing is like it, and when I plan out my content, like I'll spend a day writing out like 10 to 20 reels that I'm going to do. And then I'll spend like an hour the next day just recording, boom, 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 just recording them. And then I send them off to my guy that does all the editing and makes it look cool and music and all this stuff. So they do that. Right. And then they put it into a Dropbox for me so I can post it.
Nice.
And so, but like today's one that I did was 70 seconds. And so it's always like right over. So if it's 60 seconds or less, I would put it onto there because it is higher quality. It looks better. And it's just, but the content, like the actual topics that I'm going over, real difficult to put it into 60 seconds. And I've been better about choosing the words that I'm saying and really like trying to shorten everything and being as concise as possible. So it's just difficult.
Yeah, I understand that. And I'd love to, there's an easy tool. Well, it's not necessarily easy. You have to learn how to use it, but it's called simplified.com. Okay. And it is for those who don't want to have 5 different things to, you don't want to have Canva and like all these other things to create your reels, to create your captions, to create your content. Simplified.com, you can post all your social medias. You can't do the advertising. You can create ads in the system and download them and then populate. But it has stock images, royalty-free music, all those things. So you can literally edit all your videos. And so it kind of takes away the need for like all the separate tools. You can do it all in one platform. It also has AI that can help you generate captions, hashtags, all that, blog posts, even to correspond. Obviously you still have to have the human element of like making sure it's not going off on like weird tangents and that all the words are correct. But it's a system that I'm starting to use that is going to help me cut down on my time, because it's kind of like the cobbler who doesn't have, his kids have no shoes. It's like, it's really hard to remember that I need to also market myself. And that, like, so I'm in the process of redoing all my socials and like doing exactly what you do, like making sure these are my content pillars. These are things I want to share with the audience. What do I have planned out for the next month? And making sure that I'm recording all the videos or putting everything into folders so that I or my team can then make sure that I have the order. I can pre-populate them, make sure that they all look good together, and then send them out.
I'm gonna go check that out.
Yeah.
Because so like the guy I use, he pays for all that himself. He does all that, but but for the shorts, and so I have two different platforms, or two different I guess platforms. One's my personal brand, which is like my personal Instagram, my personal TikTok, my personal Facebook, and then my LinkedIn. And then I have my business, which is for
Yeah.
Delta. So all my Delta stuff is separate from mine. Like I handle my personal brand, which I want to keep them a little separate.
Yeah.
And then the business is all done by my admin, and
Nice.
she pulls it from the podcast. So
Yeah.
snippets from the podcast, she'll post it on the business Instagram, the business YouTube, the for shorts, the business TikTok, and the business LinkedIn. And so, but she's using different services, like captions as an app she uses, and then like I think she does Splice for splicing the videos. And then usually she's like trying to like add a music and a song on one, and then she has to remove it, then put on another,
Yeah.
like just all this thing. So I'm gonna tell her to go check out simplify.com and see
Yeah.
if it makes her job 10 times easier.
And I can introduce you to the founder. I actually met him at a startup conference where he's talking about integrated marketing for startups.
Okay.
So yeah, happy to make that introduction so you can get a little personal tutoring on it.
Yeah, that would be great. That would be fantastic. I'm definitely gonna check that out and send that to Amber.
I think another thing right now that everybody listening should really play into is all the disruption right now in the financial industry, right? All the banks, we're not really sure. Are we going to raise interest rates? Or are we going to let banks fail? Are we going to bail all these banks out? What does that mean? So I think people really want to know safety and security, right? What are the methods that they can use that are time tested, that will help them weather all these storms
Yeah.
and the unknown? Who knows what's going to come up next? Because it's been a crazy few years of volatility and crypto, like all the different things that have happened. And people are like looking at all these different strategies, but knowing that they have somebody they can go to as the voice of reason, who's like, look, I've looked at all these things. I'm the expert. All of that information is going to be really important for your listeners, to another way to represent themselves on socials. Because I know when I'll look at people's things repeatedly, and then I'll be like, okay, I'm going to join their program. Okay, I'm going to call them. But because I want to get to know, like, and trust them myself before I proceed with that. And I would expect anybody to do the same if they were going to look at my services, look up my reviews, look at my ratings, do some research. For finance, for our money, obviously people really want that too. They want that security.
Yeah, absolutely. When it comes for on the insurance side, I think that's something that insurance agents don't fully comprehend or understand the value of, because they're so used to just running a lead.
Yeah.
They're so used to just buying a lead, calling it, setting an appointment, go see an appointment, selling, going on to the next. They don't have that nurturing process built in, because not many companies do it. There are companies that do that. There are, but not many companies do. Most companies are doing based off of leads, or based off of warm market, like call your friends and family and sell them, and then get like 10 of their contacts and sell them. And then people are like, man, this is terrible. I hate this. So,
Yeah.
so they understanding that nurturing process and building a know, like, and trust, building out your brand, having consistency in your marketing and your content, so that you're attracting the right people. And I'm telling you, just having the provide value. And I almost like, I for a piece of me is like, I just want to keep providing value until they ask me like, hey, I see that you're doing this. Is there any way you could help with that? And then I'm
Yeah.
like, dude, I'd
Yeah.
love to, because then it's just a very organic conversation.
Yeah.
And it's just like,
Exactly.
hey, well, let's dig in. Let me ask you some questions to see if I can help. Right. And really like breaking everything out for them, instead of being like the normal LinkedIn, like, hey, I see we're in the same industry. Are you crushing it in 2023? And then I'm like, yeah. Okay, well, if you're interested, and then they're just going straight into that. It's like, dude, you don't even know who I am. You don't know anything about me. You provided zero value.
Yep.
Like, I'm not responding to this anymore. Like, and that's like the typical, is just like straight to the ass, straight to the ass,
Totally.
straight to the ass. And then there's no value. So
Yeah. Yeah, exactly. And people really they really want to know who you are. They want to know who they're doing business with
yeah.
because they want to make sure your values are aligned with theirs as well. You don't have to agree on every single thing politically or whatever, right?
Yeah.
But they want to know that you're somebody who they really can trust and that they because it's big decisions knowing who to put your money with.
Absolutely.
So it's one of the biggest decisions anybody will ever make.
Absolutely.
And I think also going back to all the disruption in the market right now, it's a really good time to newsjack. This is a way, if you're on Twitter, you can look up hashtag journal request. Or a lot of like journalists or, will put the requests on Twitter. And particularly now with the market, you can do newsjacking where you can see what articles are being written. You can reach out to journalists and say, hey, I could be an expert for you on this topic. I saw you write about this. Those are some quick tips to get hits
Market
from media.
credibility.
Yeah, and help a reporter out, source bottle, quoted. And then there's a new one that I'm investigating right now called Press Jockey, which kind of aggregates all that. Because in PR, there's earned media, right? And earned media has inbound and outbound. So outbound is where we're sending out something and we're pitching you for media stories. So you might have a great story or like we know this market disruption is happening, so we'll pitch journalists who are reporting on that kind of stuff and say, "Hey, I have a great expert who's in the financial industry. They can talk about XYZ that is happening right now if you need another expert." So that's outbound. Inbound is there are journalists every day looking for quotes from providers all day long, right?
What's the service called?
So this one is called Press Jockey. It's an aggregator of all those other ones that I was talking about. I think it's in beta right now. So, but you can look it up and get on their wait list. And essentially, it'll send you all the requests. So you put in your keywords, on your industry and on who you are and key phrases, and it'll spit back, oh, these journalists are looking for an expert like you. And then you can pitch yourself. So there's inbound and outbound. That's on the earned side. And then on the paid side, besides advertising and all that, there's also if you do sponsored posts, things like that, which I don't think are quite as effective, but that's a story for another day because there's a whole thing about like all these people in PR are like, I'll get you listed and blah, blah, blah. It's like, not doesn't quite work like that. And it doesn't mean that people are actually seeing your content
Yeah.
because it says sponsored. It doesn't have that same trust factor that earned media where somebody else is saying you're an expert is.
Yeah. So you talked about quoted. I already
Mhm.
knew about Haro. Press jockey. What was the other one you talked about?
Source bottle,
Source.
bottle, and quoted is actually QWOTED.
QWO.
And then there's also Substacks. A lot of journalists are now creating Substack newsletters and talking about what they need, what experts they need that week to speak on whatever topic. So that's a little bit more time intensive.
Yeah.
But yeah, but if you're looking for an all-in-one solution, kind of like simplified, I'm looking at Press Jockey as that all-in-one solution for inbound requests.
That's awesome. That's awesome.
Mhm.
Because I've actually I I've been in Haro for a while. Like I've been on there, so I see all the emails come in, and I've done a few submissions, but I've never been picked for anything. So I'm just like, like, is it worth my time to keep writing this? Because I've done probably I'd say maybe like 10 submissions, and I'm like, and it gives me there's so much I got to like scroll through. Like, can I write on this? Can I write on this? Can I write on this? Or like having a thing where I say, hey, use my keywords, and then it just sends me, hey, here's
Exactly.
potentially. That's so much better.
And Quota does the same thing.
Okay.
You can do a freemium model, but if you have Press Jockey, it aggregates all of those into one funnel because the dirty little secret is probably 80 to 90% of the requests across all these platforms are the same.
Yeah.
So it's going to take all of that work out of the way for you. So you don't have to go through the 3 emails a day you're getting from Harrow, and you can just look in Press Jockey and then choose. So, I always like to share these tools that anybody can sign up for and use, because they'll make your life easier. If you're trying to figure out marketing and PR and all these strategies on your own, or you have somebody on your team who's the admin who's taking care of them, have them investigate some of these resources. What I want to say to you about the 10, you might have to do 100, right? It's like any
Yeah.
kind of lead gen. If you're like looking at it like sales, you have to keep trying. And if doing 10 and then stopping is kind of like doing 3 social media posts, to your
Yeah.
point
No,
earlier.
don't get me wrong. I know that I'm being a clown about it. Believe me. I look at everything that I'm doing. I'm like, man, I'm running the podcast. I'm producing the podcast. I'm starting to get on more stages to speak. Like, I'm doing outreach. I'm getting on other people's podcasts to tell my story. I got the company I'm running. I'm starting up a coaching program simultaneously. Like, I'm running a lot of things. And I'm like, this would help amplify all of that.
Right.
But I'm like,
Get a VA.
so
Get somebody, get your admin to look at one, just, if it's one system.
yeah.
And so if you're, I'm going to have you come on my podcast, because I don't think you've done that yet.
I have not.
Yeah. So we'll have to talk about that.
Yeah, I'd love to.
Yeah.
Yeah. Well, we could coordinate and schedule a time.
Yeah.
Exactly.
Exactly.
So, Anika, thank you so much for jumping on the Be the Difference podcast. This has been fantastic. If anyone you watched to now, you obviously got value from Anika and her story, her experience, and a lot of the tips that she shared when it came to marketing. If anyone does want to look at learning more about how you do marketing and maybe looking at your services, what's the best place they can reach you at?
Well, if it's okay with you, I'll send you a link where people can schedule a free strat session.
Okay.
No obligation at all. I love talking to people and giving them quick little tips that they can integrate into their businesses right away. And then my social media and my website, yourbrandampli.com. Social, I'm also Amplify with Anika. So I have those 2 accounts. They serve kind of like you, serve a little bit of different purposes. I'm totally rebranding them right now to do a little more of that separation. And then fullcapacitymarketing.com as well for general marketing and strat services. But if you go to yourbrandampli.com, it'll have my podcast. It'll have a lot of like the way we work, reviews, case studies, all of that good information too.
Awesome. I love it. Thank you so much.
Thank you.
Last question I have for all my podcast guests is, you have the opportunity to sit with, break bread with, learn from, and just gain knowledge from 3 individuals, anyone in history, living or deceased. Who are they and why?
Oh, man. Oh, that is a tough one. There are so many. The people that come to mind right away are Susan B. Anthony.
That's a unique one. I haven't heard that one yet. That's good.
And then also a relative of mine, probably 100-something years ago. She's known in Thailand as Lady Mo. And they're both, those 2 particularly are 2 women who really helped change the face of whether it was standing up for women's rights, or Lady Mo helped when her area, she and her husband ran a certain area. He was like the governor, I guess, of that region in Thailand, and it was invaded. And her husband was gone. She was able to lead her people to freedom. So I love hearing stories about inspirational people, and I'd love to pick both their brains on like, what techniques did they use to market their ideas, right? To sell their ideas to bigger audiences, whether it was the community looking for ways to get to freedom and get under the people who'd invaded their town, or whether it was like helping people understand why it was important for women to have the right to vote. So I know I've only listed 2. The third one, oh man. I don't know. I think maybe just having my grandparents, my American grandparents back, and being able to have conversations with them about their childhoods and more of the family history would be really impactful.
Sounds good. I love it. That's 3 unique ones. I love that. I love
good.
that. Thank you so much for coming on the podcast. I really appreciate it. This was fantastic, and just learning a little bit more about marketing. I love talking about marketing. It's something that's been a passion of mine for the last year and a half,
Nice.
and I'm learning more and more about it. I'm starting to get dangerous. So,
Oh, that's good.
for those of you watching, we need your assistance. We need your help. We ask you a favor. Please share this content. We spread out by word of mouth, and that means by you. So if you got value from this, if you watch it now, obviously you got some value, because then you're just wasting your time. And if you got value, then maybe by sharing this, you can provide to other people that can also get value and learn something, maybe change your perspective, or just take a little nugget of knowledge away. Takes you about 60 seconds to rate, review, subscribe, share this content, and it means the world to both Anika and I. So this has been the Be the Difference podcast. I'm your host, Greg Birch. Until next time, we'll see you.